A man sits in his car outside the gym after work. He hasn't failed yet. He brought his clothes. He drove there intentionally. Earlier that morning, he even felt motivated. But now, sitting in the parking lot, something subtle has shifted. The workout still makes sense logically, but the immediate discomfort feels heavier than the long-term benefit feels valuable. So he checks his phone, tells himself he'll go tomorrow when he has more energy, and drives home. Nothing dramatic happened. And that's precisely the problem. Long-term failure rarely looks dramatic. It looks like small, reasonable adjustments made in the present moment that quietly override long-term intention. What happened in that parking lot was not laziness. It was not a character flaw. It was a predictable distortion in how human beings evaluate time. That distortion is called time inconsistency. And once you understand it properly, you start seeing it behind almost every pattern of self-sabotage. You believe you want certain outcomes: better health, financial security, competence, respect, stability. Those desires are real. But in the moment of action, you often want something else: relief from effort, relief from discomfort, relief from uncertainty. The confusion begins when you assume these desires come from the same version of you. They don't. There is the present self, the version of you that feels hunger, fatigue, boredom, stress, and social tension in real time. And there is the future self, the version of you that will experience the consequences of today's decisions. The future self absorbs debt, weakened health, missed opportunities, or alternatively, strength and stability. The structural asymmetry is simple. The present self makes decisions, and the future self lives with them. Only one of them has voting rights. From a first principles perspective, the core issue is that humans do not value rewards consistently across time. If you were offered 100 pounds today or 150 pounds in a year, you know, intellectually, that 150 pounds is better. But psychologically, the 150 pounds feels distant and abstract, while the 100 pounds feels immediate and concrete. The brain does not measure value purely by size. It measures vividness and proximity. What makes this distortion dangerous is that it is not linear. The psychological difference between today and next week feels much larger than the difference between 9 years and 10 years. The present moment is dramatically overweighted. As a result, small immediate rewards gain artificial dominance over larger delayed ones. That weighting difference is subtle in a single decision, but repeated across dozens of daily choices, it compounds. This is not a flaw in your design. It is an evolutionary inheritance. For most of human history, immediate rewards often determined survival. Food available now mattered more than hypothetical food later. Immediate shelter mattered more than architectural optimization. Quick action frequently increased survival probability. Your nervous system evolved in that environment, where prioritizing the present was adaptive. But the modern environment is different. Nearly everything valuable now requires delayed gratification. Physical fitness takes months of consistent effort. Financial independence requires years of disciplined saving. Skill mastery demands repetition over long time horizons. At the same time, immediate stimulation is abundant and engineered. Ultra-processed food delivers instant pleasure. Social media compresses effort and reward into seconds. Online shopping separates desire from payment friction. The ancient reward system is now operating inside a marketplace optimized to exploit immediacy. The system that once protected you now works against long-term stability. Consider how this plays out in ordinary life. After a long day, you may intend to read something meaningful, but scrolling offers effortless stimulation, while reading requires cognitive engagement before reward. So you scroll. The trade-off feels trivial in the moment because the long-term cost, reduced focus, fragmented attention, is not immediately visible. The same pattern appears in financial decisions. A purchase provides instant satisfaction, while the long-term cost of reduced savings feels abstract. Credit systems amplify this by separating the purchase from the pain of payment. The pleasure is immediate. The consequence is delayed. Each individual decision appears small. That's what makes them dangerous. Because when consequences are delayed, the mind treats the decision as low stakes. Over time, these small present bias choices accumulate into outcomes that look like identity traits. I'm just bad with money, or I'm not disciplined. In reality, what you are observing is time inconsistency playing out repeatedly. The most seductive phrase in this entire process is, "I'll fix it later." It sounds responsible. It sounds flexible. But structurally, it is a transfer mechanism. You are shifting effort from the present self to a future self who will operate under identical biological constraints. Tomorrow's version of you will still overweight the present moment. The underlying distortion does not disappear overnight. When tomorrow arrives, it becomes another now with the same perceptual bias. That is why self-promises often feel sincere and still fail. The intention was real. The mechanism was stronger. It is important to recognize something uncomfortable here. The future self has no direct power. The future self cannot interrupt your current decision. It cannot veto a purchase, pull you out of bed, or prevent you from postponing effort. Decision authority always exists in the present moment, and the present moment is biased toward relief over growth. Relief is immediate. Growth is delayed. The brain prefers resolving discomfort now, even if doing so increases total discomfort later. Procrastination, for example, is often not about seeking pleasure, but about avoiding immediate anxiety. The relief of postponement feels real and measurable. The future cost feels distant and negotiable. Immediate relief consistently outcompetes delayed benefit. This is why advice centered purely on discipline often collapses under pressure. Discipline asks the present self to repeatedly select delayed rewards over immediate relief. That is possible, but it requires sustained willpower. And willpower is fragile under fatigue, stress, and emotional load. More importantly, willpower does not alter the timing structure that creates the bias in the first place. If you are constantly fighting your environment at the moment of temptation, you are relying on brute force instead of leverage. The more effective strategy is structural. There is a single framework that addresses time inconsistency at its root. Reverse the timing of rewards and consequences. Bring future costs closer to the present. Push immediate rewards further into the future. When you adjust timing, you reduce the imbalance between the present and the future self. For example, if unhealthy food is easily accessible, the pleasure is immediate and the health cost is distant. Removing it from your environment introduces friction. Now the cost in effort and inconvenience is felt immediately, and that changes the decision landscape. You are not increasing discipline. You are modifying timing. Similarly, if exercise feels unrewarding because results are delayed, you can attach an immediate benefit to the activity itself. Listening to a favorite podcast only while training, tracking visible streaks, or incorporating small completion rituals introduces present moment satisfaction. The brain now receives a near-term reward aligned with the long-term goal. Commitment devices operate on the same principle. Automatic investments remove the need for repeated present decisions. Public deadlines create immediate social consequences. Prepaid commitments convert future regret into present constraint. In each case, you are shifting consequences closer to the moment of choice. Structure replaces struggle. Once you understand this mechanism, you begin to notice it everywhere. Credit cards delay pain. Subscriptions reduce immediate friction to sign up while increasing friction to cancel. Social platforms compress reward cycles to seconds because they know the present moment dominates cognitive weighting. The world is optimized for immediacy because your brain is biased toward it. That bias can be exploited. or it can be engineered in your favor. Time inconsistency explains why capable people accumulate debt, why intelligent people procrastinate, and why sincere goals repeatedly reset. It is not primarily a failure of intelligence or moral strength. It is a predictable distortion in how humans perceive value across time. The present expands, the future contracts, and unless you intervene structurally, the expansion wins by default. So the question shifts from why am I not disciplined to how is timing structured in this decision? Where is the reward landing? Where is the cost landing? Who benefits from that gap? When you start examining decisions through that lens, self-blame decreases, but responsibility becomes clearer. Because now you see the lever. The lever is timing. Control when consequences are felt, and you influence behavior. Ignore timing, and the present self will quietly tax the future self for years. Not dramatically, but gradually. And gradual drift is far more dangerous than sudden failure, because it feels reasonable the entire time.